Yo, what's going on, everybody? So Boruto chapter 40 is done and in the books, and I gotta talk to anime onlys for a second before I get into the chapter review. If you're someone who doesn't want to be spoiled, I highly recommend clicking off this video. I have a bunch of content, literally over 80% of the content on the channel. Out of the 399 videos on the channel, over 80% is spoiler free. And if you're trying to get caught up on the Boruto manga, I have links down in the description box for you guys to read the Boruto manga and do so in a way that supports the channel. And real quick before we get into the review, I gotta give a shout out to Nahima. She is part of the Senju squad with all of you guys, and she is disabled and she's going through spine surgery today. So I want everybody to send their thoughts and well wishes, prayers, whatever it is that you do, send your positive energy to her. She's very talented when it comes to using paper crafts. She made a paper craft for my avatar that I used over on Twitter that I almost used as a profile for the YouTube channel. She's very, very talented, and I just want to give her my thoughts, prayers, and well wishes for her surgery. So with all that being said, let's go ahead and get into the chapter review. So Boruto chapter 40, yo. We have to first of all talk about Sarada finally showing her 3 Tomoe Sharingan, and as someone who's been yelling and screaming for over a year and a half between my original channel as well as on this channel, just yelling and screaming that Sarada has a fully matured Sharingan. She has a 3 Tomoe Sharingan. I love the fact that the manga finally adapted this. I've been saying this for a really long time, and I feel like this gives us a little bit of hope that when the anime starts adapting the Sasuke Shinden novel, that we're gonna see that moment when Sarada's training with Sasuke and we see that 3 Tomoe Sharingan. So with that part out of the way, now that I've got my tea and I've drank my tea a little bit, let's go ahead and talk about this chapter. So I like how the chapter opens up. It throws us for a cliffhanger, right? The last chapter ends with Boro just staring down at Boruto and Team 7, and this chapter opens up with Shikamaru just completely stressing out over the fact that he's got his sealing group outside that got this barrier up there, and he's thinking like, I can't believe these stupid Gani ran off on their own. And you can tell like the wheels are just turning. He's like, well, we need Sasuke space-time ninjutsu in order to follow after them. And so you can tell that he still doesn't quite trust Kawaki, and he's acting like a Hokage. But then Shikamaru in real time finds out that Sasuke has been taken to the hospital. Sasuke is in critical danger. Sakura and the medical unit, it looks like Sakura is the main one healing him. They've managed to get him out of critical condition, but Sasuke's still unconscious. So Jigen put one hell of a beat down on Sasuke, and I really like that we got that moment there where you see the concerned face of Sakura, and then in the next panel you see Shikamaru, and you can tell Shikamaru is about to go into panic mode because he understands that his last line of defense, his real last line of defense, is completely gone. So I like that moment there. I thought that that was really good for the sake of tension. Now I like how right after that it transitions back over to Boro having this conversation with Team 7, and I like how the new Team 7, Boruto, Kawaki, Mitsuki, and Sarada, they're all staring down at Boro, and Boro's just doing a lot of trolling at this point, and he says like, okay, I can't believe somebody like you, Kawaki, someone who doesn't warm up to much of anybody, all of a sudden you're all lovey-dovey with the Hokage. And he picks up the fortune cookie jar. I know that it's a rice pot, but it sounds better to call it a fortune cookie jar because Naruto's writing fortune cookies in there because he's a child of prophecy. But I love the fact that he's holding up Naruto's fortune cookie jar and he's like, hey, how about you get the Hokage? Catch, bitch. And he throws the jar, right? He throws the jar and Boruto runs over to it, and you can tell Boruto's thinking like, okay, I really need to get my dad out of here. Boruto's probably about to use some overpowered jutsu to try and break it, and all of a sudden Boro says like, if you try to crack it, if you try to open it, I can't guarantee that the Hokage is alive. Then again, I can't guarantee that he's alive anyway. The only one who can undo this seal is Jigen. So I like the fact that once again we're getting more emphasis on the fact that sealing jutsu could very well play a huge role in the future direction of the series. So I like that moment right there, because if somebody other than Jigen gets him out of there, it's got to be somebody who knows sealing jutsu. So I like that element there, but at the same time I like how this was essentially a big ass diversion, because you get the moment where they're looking around and they don't see Boro, and Kawaki's like, yeah, I totally forgot to tell you this. And this is like a constant theme with Kawaki. Kawaki has all this intelligence on the different car members, like, hey, I forgot to tell you this. Oh, I forgot to tell you this as well. So I really like that moment right there. I really like that. And I like how when all of a sudden Mitsuki's like, I can sense he's about to attack, I'm thinking, okay, Mitsuki's about to go into sage mode or something. I'm thinking that's probably the route he's about to go, but that's not the case. All of a sudden, Boro attacks from underground, and he used what's called the planet branding blast. And essentially, that's a huge blast of lava, okay? But the lava also mixes in acid, and Sarada activates her sharingan, and you see the 3 Tomoe sharingan, and what that allows her to do is it allows her to break down the jutsu. So I love the fact that you see that element of Sarada, and how despite everything that's going on, Sarada's actually the one who's acting like a chunin. It goes back to what I said in my episode discussion when Shikadai became chunin. I said that really Sarada possesses a lot of the elements that you really need to be chunin, and you see them on full display here. Though it should be worth noting that this takes place over a year removed from the versus Momoshiki arc, so Sarada's had a year to grow. And what I like about this moment here is that Sarada is breaking down everything, and while Boruto and Kawaki and Mitsuki are just rushing in, and while Mitsuki is doing a little bit of thinking, Sarada is not willing to jump in unless she's noticed everything. And she's one of the first ones, if not the only one, to recognize that Boro is weaving hand seals. And I think that that could be something that kind of ties back to Tsunade and the Byakugo seal, because I'm not saying that he has the strength of 100 healings. That's not what I'm saying. But he's using a jutsu that allows him to regenerate and instantly heal his body. And the strength of 100 healings and the Byakugo seal basically automatically heal your injuries as they happen in real time. But for Boro, he needs to weave those hand signs right away. So that does indicate that if they can find a way to attack him before he wields those hand seals, he's not going to be able to regenerate quickly. So I think that that's really good, that this gives an opportunity for potentially for Sarada to lead some type of an attack in order to take Boro out. So I like that. But what's also interesting is the fact that we're learning more about the Karma Seal as well, because the Karma Seal allows Kawaki to essentially absorb the jutsu even though there's acid mixed into it, and there's no type of ramification to that. So I like seeing that moment right there, and Kawaki basically says, like, I can't believe that he used the 7th Hokage as bait, and he's really worried that nothing in it is damaged. So what you're also seeing in this is the fact that they have to try and protect that fortune cookie jar that Naruto's in as well, because if they don't, something bad could happen to Naruto. It could potentially kill him because he's in a state where he can't really defend himself. So I like that moment right there. Again, this gives us an opportunity to raise the stakes. So I thought that that was very well done, and I like how Boruto immediately just jumps in. Boruto jumps in and he essentially absorbs another lava style planet branding attack that has the acid mixed into it, and Boruto absorbs it. Boruto looks around and you can tell that the karma, he doesn't have the lines activated on his face, but you can tell that the karma is completely activated, and that Boruto isn't as well experienced with it as Kawaki because he appears to be a bit out of breath there. But that was all an opportunity for Boro to confirm whether or not Delta's information was correct, that Boruto had the Karma Seal. And what's so big about this chapter is that immediately right after that, you find out that Kawaki and Boruto, we know that Jigen referred to them as being a Sasuke clan vessels, but Boruto is automatically branded by Boro as being a vessel for Momoshiki. He directly calls him Momoshiki's vessel, and Boruto looks shocked at that. So I like the fact that we're getting some callbacks to, I believe, either volume 3 or volume 4 of the Boruto manga when the versus Momoshiki arc ended. So I like the fact that we're getting some tie-ins there. And one thing I do have to say is that I really feel like Ikimoto, the artist, he's taken some huge strides. I'm not going to take that away from him. He's taken some huge strides when it comes to his artwork, but I felt like the battle sequences in this chapter could have been a little better done. In particular, when you go to the scene when Boruto is rushing at Boro and he's using the Rasengan, I feel like there could have been a better job when it comes to the follow through, because you see Boruto running on the first page, and then on the next page you get the half shot of Boruto's face, you see the Rasengan, and then you see the full body shot where Boruto's slamming that Rasengan into Boro, and you see the Rasengan being shoved into his gut. I feel like there was a little bit more that could have been done there. I feel like he could have used a few more panels to just show the full follow through instead of just giving us a snapshot where, oh, Boruto rushes at him, oh, Boruto's now at him, now the Rasengan's going into him. Like, in 3 full swoops like that, I don't feel like that's good enough to do good justice to essentially one of Boruto's signature attacks. I feel like that's something that he could have done better, especially when you look at the fact the very next page you see Boro just getting knocked clean through the air and he lands up against the debris. Like that right there, there should have been a better follow-up to pay that moment off. And I like how Boruto's completely shocked. And as Boro is essentially healing himself, Sarada, again, she realizes that he's weaving the hand seals, but before anything can happen, Kawaki just jumps in. He's essentially using the karma to make his body transform, and he has all these different sprouts come out and he impales Boro. And what I like about that is how even though that happens and he knocks Boro clean through the plateau where he's midway through it, even though that happens, right, Boro is not studying any of it. And what's so crazy about that is how that's when we find out that Boro had activated a second jutsu. And what I like about this moment here is when you see Boruto and Kawaki get immobilized and they can't really move their limbs, that goes back to something that I've been harping on for a long time. When it comes to Naruto battles, it's not the jutsu that you see that you should be worried about. It's the jutsu that's being set up to hide the jutsu that's going to do you in that you need to be paying attention to. Sarada never lost track of that. She's studying the movements. It's a great thing that she has a sharingan because it just shows you that she really is the daughter of Sasuke and Sakura, two highly intelligent shinobi. So I like the fact that you see that moment right there. Like Boruto, even though Sarada tells him not to rush in unexpectedly, even though there's a warning for Kawaki not to rush in unexpectedly, they jump in head first and essentially pay the price for it. And what I like about that moment right there is how Kawaki tries to absorb the dark mist and he can't do it. And Mitsuki thinks, okay, well, I can just jump in and I can use the wind style jutsu and I can blow this mist away and it'll be no problem. In hindsight, that's a bad idea, but at the time you're thinking, okay, Mitsuki's actually doing a pretty good job. But the one thing I would say is that some people might say, well, why didn't Mitsuki just succumb to it right away? Well, you gotta remember, Mitsuki is the son of Orochimaru. He's been a test tube subject for years on end because he's a clone, but also Mitsuki likely underwent the same thing that Sasuke did when Sasuke was playing hide the snake with Orochimaru for 3 years during the training, which is he was also getting poisons and all types of stuff injected into him, so he's immune to the poison. So for Mitsuki, even though he's got a high tolerance to poison, that is something that did slow him down a little bit, and he even says it himself that he can't stay in this mist for a very long time. But what I like about this moment here is that Mitsuki is continuing to fight back. He starts out, tries to use the wind style breakthrough jutsu. It doesn't equate to what he wants. All of a sudden, Mitsuki then uses the lightning style snake jutsu, and Boro counters that with the water wall jutsu and essentially balances out the attack. And what I like about that moment right there is that as Boro is putting up his defense, Mitsuki hides everything by having his snakes come out, and he has his snakes immobilize Boro, and Boro, as he's swinging Mitsuki's snakes around and throwing Mitsuki off of him and slamming him into the ground, Mitsuki is also fighting back while this is going on because he has the snakes bite into Boro's body and fill him up with venom. And you think that that's something that could have worked, like, okay, he got him, but then all of a sudden you see Boro weaves the hand signs and he immediately heals himself. And they're just telegraphing the fact that Sarada is going to come up with the counter to this, because Sarada, every time he weaves the hand seals, Sarada's breaking down his jutsu. And I would like to put it to you like this, right? The best comparison to what Sarada's doing is the same thing that Danzo did when Sasuke was fighting him. So essentially, when you look at Sarada, she's taking a page out of Sasuke's book. Sasuke noticed that Danzo kept looking down at his Sharingan arm like, hey, look at this arm right here. I'm doing something special. I'm doing something creepy. And Sasuke realized, okay, every time those eyes close, all of a sudden he's able to bring himself back to life. And Sasuke realized, okay, I gotta come up with a counter for this right away. Sarada's doing the same thing. And the fact that she's leading the charge that's gonna start in the next chapter, it really lets you know that this is gonna be the moment that Sarada is gonna start taking that information and she's gonna start putting it to good use. And so I like that moment right there. And I like that moment how when Boruto is being threatened with being taken back to the base of the car organization, being taken back to Jigen, you have Sarada. Sarada at that point, she's reached her tipping point, right? She's reached her tipping point because she ain't letting Boruto get experimented on. Sarada just cleanly picks up half of the upper half of the plateau that she's standing on, and she just throws that big ass chunk of debris at Boro. And Boro, as he's getting hit with it, right, he looks genuinely shocked that Sarada threw something that big at him. So you see that monster strength on display, and the fact that you see Sarada tell Mitsuki like, hey, we need to grab Boruto and Kawaki, we need to get out of here, and Sarada does so with an extreme sense of urgency. What that tells me, because if you look at that panel, you had that moment where Sarada is looking at Boro and Boro is looking at Sarada through the mist. So that tells me that there's a time limit when it comes to how long it takes for him to activate that jutsu where he can heal himself and how long it takes before he can use it again. Kind of like the Tendo Path, how the Tendo Path had a 5-second interval. So I think that there's an interval here when it comes to what Boro's doing. And I like how when Boro says, okay, they ran away, but I still got the Hokage. They're eventually going to come back. It's essentially a bit of a waiting game. And I like how Kawaki's like, I can't believe you ran off. Why would you abandon the 7th Hokage? I thought that you loved the Hokage. And Sarada says like, no, we need to figure out this jutsu first. We need to come up with a plan. If we just would have kept rushing in like you guys, we all would have been wiped out. So I like that moment right there. I really like that. And I like how you get that moment where Sarada, as she takes charge, she says like, look, like we're the members of the new Team 7, but Kawaki's with us as well. So we'll revamp everything. We'll call ourselves the new Team 7. And what's so interesting about that is, again, you see Sarada just lecturing Boruto, someone who really needs it, because Boruto's gotten very impatient in the manga. And so what I like is the fact that Sarada says like the basic tenet of shinobi is having teamwork. We need to coordinate our attacks. So I like this right here because, again, Sarada is showing that she does deserve to be a Chunin. And when it comes to anyone out of this new Team 7, that's who's going to be the Chunin before anybody else. Sarada, after she broke down everything, Sarada says, okay, now I got to rescue them. We need to rethink our strategy. We need to get the hell out of here. So I like that moment right there, but I want to know from you guys. I really want to know from you guys. What are you guys' thoughts about the fact that one, Sasuke in the anime is out of chakra, and now in the manga, Sasuke is completely unconscious? What are your thoughts on that? Also, what are your thoughts on the fact that we get confirmation that Boruto is directly going to be Momoshiki's vessel? What are you guys' thoughts on that? I made a video a while back talking about is Boruto Momoshiki's vessel, so I'm glad that we get that confirmation there. And the other thing is what are you guys' thoughts about Boro's jutsu? The lava release jutsu where he has the acid mixed in and that mist jutsu that he uses to immobilize people. What do you guys think about that? What do you guys think about the fight? Are you glad to see more ninja tactics being introduced into the series? But as always, guys, if you like anything I had to say, don't forget to comment, rate, subscribe, and share. Thank you so much for watching all the way to the end. Have an awesome day, guys.